Hello, this is Mr. Chavry. We are here with another narrated Pokemon battle. So, these UltraSun and Moon battles are starting to get further and far in between. But it's still nice to go back every once in a while. This is going to be a battle against the Killer Nacho. And this is actually an Inu battle here. So we're going to be using some Pokemon that we haven't used in a while. And the main Pokemon I want to make work in this battle is going to be Aerodactyl. It's actually the Z Celebrate set that actually became legal not too long ago. So I'm going to lead off with Mr. Whiskers. I think getting an Intimidate is going to be really nice, as my opponent leads off with the Medicham. So here, I'm actually going to just stay in, as my opponent goes ahead and goes for the Fake Out. I know that was a pretty risky play because this thing has like fighting type moves, but we're going to make a switch into Delmise here, basically baiting out the high jump kick. And we're going to see the high jump kick. It's going to just not do anything to Delmise and actually do damage back onto the Medicham. So that's a good thing about having a Ghost type in the back. But I didn't want to just play it too risky because if I just switched Delmise in, it wouldn't have done any good. So here I'm going to go for an Anchor Shot. I'm pretty sure my opponent's going to switch the Medicham out. As we see the Weezing come in, I want to go for an Anchor Shot so we can lock in whatever switches in. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to have that Weezing here. We're going to go into Silvally. This is Steel-type Silvally. And we're going to switch into a Will-O-Wisp here. Really, looking at my team, Silvally is probably the best thing to take a Will-O-Wisp, because it is a special attacker on this team. And that's what I was really thinking of. What on my team do I want to switch in here to take a possible Will-O-Wisp, and something that doesn't worry about Toxic. So Silvally fits that. And we're going to go for a Flash Cannon here. My hope is to do some good damage to this thing because Weezing's known for its physical bulk, not so much its special bulk. So I'm hoping to get some good damage on it, as it doesn't quite do as much as I was hoping. And this thing's going to go ahead and start getting some Toxic Spikes up. Here I'm going to actually go for the Defog to get rid of those Toxic Spikes, as my opponent's actually going to continue trying to stack Toxic Spikes here. But it's good to have a Defog on this Silvally here. This Silvally is a special attacking set, but it does have Defog, and it also has Parting Shot, so I'm hoping that Parting Shot might come in handy later on. But we're going to go ahead and Defog. I'm hoping we don't see, because Braviary does get Defiant, so that's something I was kind of nervous about seeing. But luckily we don't see the Braviary switch in, and we're just going to go ahead and get a Pain Split on us, so this Weezing is actually going to be healing itself up, which is actually kind of bad. Here I'm going to go for a Parting Shot, kind of risky, but I want to go ahead and, reduce this thing's special attack as much as I can. And if my opponent did make a switch, it would have been good to reduce the attack stat of whatever my opponent switches in. We're going to get Mr. Whiskers in here for that Intimidate. Not really for the Intimidate, but because this thing can take hits. And I'm wanting to try to, break through this Weezing because the two Pokemon that can really be a problem for my Aerodactyl later on is going to be this Weezing and the Seismitoad. And here we're going to see the Seismitoad switch in, actually, so kind of nervous about these two Pokemon because usually they're pretty physically bulky. And if we can, break through both of these, Aerodactyl should be having a pretty good time. But yeah, now we're going to switch out. I don't want to let Mr. Whiskers go down here. And I'm going to go into Delmise here because Delmise, with that Power Whip, can do a lot of damage against this thing. Unfortunately, that means we're going to get poisoned. But that's not the worst thing. And I do have Rapid Spin on Delmise. So if we can get a Rapid Spin, that's going to be really good for us. So here, I'm actually just going to go ahead and try to get a Rapid Spin. I'm pretty sure my opponent's not going to stay in with the Seismitoad. Unfortunately, my opponent decides to risk it and go for the Delmise. I was thinking my opponent probably wouldn't go into Delmise just because I could easily go for a Shadow Claw and do a lot of damage to that thing. But with that, this Delmise is going to just switch in and block our Rapid Spin. I don't want to take a Shadow Claw, so I'm going to go into Silvally here. And unfortunately, we're going to switch right into an Earthquake. So my opponent made a really good prediction there, and it ended up paying off really well. So we lose Silvally right there, and yeah, this thing is kind of a big threat. I'm going to go into Mr. Whiskers here, mainly for the Intimidate, so I can, intimidate this thing. But I can go ahead and go for a Darkest Lariat, and I'm hoping the Darkest Lariat will be enough to get rid of this Delmise here. So that's what I'm going to do. Go ahead, go for the Darkest Lariat. We're going to watch cool spinning animation that Incineroar has, and it's not going to be enough, and unfortunately that means we're going to take another Earthquake from this thing. So, yeah, poor Mr. Whiskers here is going to take quite a bit of damage from that. Luckily with that Intimidate, though, we can live it, but we don't have much survivability now that we're poisoned. So, yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. I just go for another Darkest Lariat because, really, there's not really a reason not to go for a Darkest Lariat. I mean, it would be nice to keep Incineroar around, but I think sacking off Incineroar to get rid of that thing would be fine. And another thing is I don't want Braviary to come in while I try to Intimidate later on either. So I'm going to go ahead and let, Incineroar go down, and we're going to see the Stealth Rocks from the Seismitoad. I'm going to just go ahead, Darkest Lariat, try to get some good chip damage on this thing, because, like I said, the two Pokemon that are the biggest threats to my Aerodactyl is going to be the Seismitoad and the Weezing, so if I can get as much damage on those two as I can, that would be really great. We do quite a bit of damage with the Darkest Lariat. I'm actually surprised it did that much. But with that, I can go into my Delmise here, and of course, I could Rapid Spin, but I think it would be better off if I go more on the offensive on this thing and just get rid of it. So I'm going to just go ahead, Power Whip it, and get rid of the Seismitoad. So that way, later on, Aerodactyl has one less thing to really worry about. And the reason I'm not that worried about the Stealth Rocks is because with Aerodactyl, I do have Roost on it. So after I get the Z Celebrate boost, I can just Roost up and get a little bit of health back. Here I'm going to go into Hitmonlee as we're going to see the Medicham. And it's pretty obvious the Medicham's going to probably go for a safe Fake Out here. So I'm just going to, stay in and actually go for a knockoff to get rid of its item, as my opponent actually does make a switch into Weezing instead of letting me just knock off its item. So my opponent was probably predicting me to go for a Fake Out there instead. But this is actually a Choice Scarfed Hitmonlee. It's Hitmonlee I just threw on the team. I wanted to try it out, and the knockoff there, the good thing is we do get rid of that sludge, though, that black sludge. So it's going to weaken down like the survivability of this Weezing. But here I'm going to go into Seismitoad, and really I want to hit this thing on that special defense side, and I do have Scald on the Seismitoad. So what I'm hoping is to get this thing in. We do take that Sludge Bomb really well, too. And with us being poisoned, I don't have to worry about a Will-O-Wisp. So I'm just going to go for a Scald, as my opponent actually goes into the Braviary now. And I'm hoping that we can get a burn on this thing. Most Braviaries I see are actually Scarfed. So this thing is going to be quite a big threat to me. And I'm really hoping I can burn it. So that way I can, survive a little bit better with my Seismitoad. So we're going to take a nasty Brave Bird now. And it's going to do quite a bit of damage. But what I'm really hoping for is that burn. I'm still hoping for the burn. And we're going to just take this thing down to yellow, but not get the burn. And that's unfortunate. But I do have to say there's a good thing in not getting the burn. That means the Braviary is going to live a bit longer. And I am predicting that this thing is probably going to be Scarfed because most of them are Scarfed. So now that it's locked itself into Brave Bird, I have a perfect opportunity to get a Z Celebrate with my Aerodactyl. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in Aerodactyl. I'm going to go for the Z Celebrate. We're going to see if this set can pull through here. Unfortunately, that Weezing is still alive, and I am kind of worried about that, but I'm hoping that with a Z Celebrate, my Aerodactyl can maybe power through it, maybe even get a crit on that thing. I know Weezing is going to be the thing that is the biggest threat. So here, we're just going to go for the Z Celebrate. The Braviary is going to survive the recoil, and that basically means I can easily go for a Roost after this, and I know I'm going to be able to live a hit from this thing. So we go ahead and get the Z Celebrate. It's going to boost our attack, boost our defenses, even boost our speed. So we're going to actually outspeed the Scarfed Braviary here. So let's go ahead and get that Roost up. And that way we will be able to survive the next Brave Bird and have some more survivability against the Weezing, because that's the thing that I need to power through if we're going to get a nice Aerodactyl sweep here. But the Braviary is going to go down to its own recoil there, and Aerodactyl is looking very good now. We're going to see that Weezing come in, and I am kind of nervous about the Weezing. This Aerodactyl, I do have Aerial Ace instead of Stone Edge, I think maybe Stone Edge would have been a better choice for an offensive move here. But I went ahead and did the Aerial Ace because I thought, you know, Flying Stab's pretty nice, and if I can get boosted, maybe it'll be just as fine. But as you see here, it's not going to do much to that Wheezing, and we're actually going to get burnt, which is actually really bad. My opponent's going to actually go into Kling Klang here. I guess trying to get a Kling Klang sweep going, so my opponent's going to go ahead and try to get the shift gear. But I do have Earthquake on my Aerodactyl. And the good thing is, even though we are burned, we will be able to two-shot this Kling Klang. So even after the shift gear, we will still outspeed it, and it doesn't have enough bulk to live 2 Earthquakes. So this Kling Klang is going to get shut down before it even has an opportunity to sweep us. So let's just go ahead, Earthquake this thing one more time and get rid of it. The problem is that Wheezing is still back there. And the Medicham is still there, and Medicham can still be a threat to us. I'm hoping that we have enough that we can play around the Medicham, but really the Wheezing is the thing. And my last mon is Hitmonlee, so I've got 2 physical attackers here against the Wheezing. I'm going to actually Roost here. I know if we take like an attack from this thing, we probably won't have much survivability. So I'm going to try to Roost, so that way it's going to be like a little bit of a stally type thing, I guess. And I'm hoping that we can get a crit, because I think that would break through this thing's defenses and get rid of it. The bad thing about us going for Roost, though, is this thing can actually heal itself up with a Pain Split. And that's going to make it a little bit tougher on us, but with that, maybe we can just weaken this thing down. And you see, Wheezing is just so good. It's got really good bulk. I'm not going to go for another Roost because I don't want this thing to heal up too much. I'm just going to go ahead and just, you know, let Aerodactyl go down for the most part, because if I Roost, it's going to heal this thing back up, and it'll eventually outstall my Aerodactyl. My only hope is to get a crit, but if I can just continuously hit this thing with Aerial Aces, maybe I can get a crit and, you know, get rid of it. It's actually going to survive right there with a sliver of health, and it'll actually be able to go for one more Pain Split before my Aerodactyl goes down. So here I've got Hitmonlee, and I have to lock myself into a move, and this is actually a reckless Hitmonlee. I didn't really have the ability, like I didn't have the time to calc it. So really, I know I'll take out this Wheezing if I don't miss the high jump kick. But my hope is that maybe we can take out the Medicham. Really, Medicham looks like it would be able to completely shut us down, and the high jump kick is really the only thing I could click, I guess. Because a knockoff is going to just get rid of its item, but it's still going to probably live that. We're going to get hit with a Fake Out, and that's kind of bad. But we're going to see that this thing does have priority in Bullet Punch. So, unfortunately for us, we weren't able to win that one. But that was actually a really close battle. Good game, Killer Nacho. The Z Celebrate Aerodactyl actually doing a little bit of work in there. Not as much as I would have hoped, but it actually did some good stuff. So if you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I will see you in the next Pokemon video.